What's up, y'all? It's funny, this channel is quickly becoming car diaries. When I'm at home, I'm either having to get my work done or help take care of the fam. So it's when I come to the gym and I'm in the car that I have the opportunity to talk to the phone and get my thoughts out. So I just keep coming back to the kind of central thought that I find to be really important, and that is being able to say what you think, irrespective of, cultural influence, group identity, external pressures. Any kind of manipulation is paramount to the sanctity of one's soul. Like, you just have to be able to say what you think. You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to think out loud, or you get totalitarianism, you get authoritarianism, you get the kind of regimes where, tens of millions of people get murdered. And young people that are naive, that haven't studied history or haven't lived in a place that has been ravaged by war or authoritarianism, just don't know about what happens in the kinds of cultures where they have great leaps forward and they have, ethnic cleansing, and they might call, the current president, a Nazi or something, without any concept of the kind of violence that has gone on in the 20th century. But I do think that, like Gandalf said in The Lord of the Rings, it's not great acts of heroism that keeps evil at bay. It's the ordinary deeds of the little people that conquers the darkness. It's standing up for your fellow man, or woman in conversation. It's holding a door for somebody. It's speaking your mind when you feel justified to do so. And the path toward hell, as they say, is paved with good intentions and is necessarily a slippery slope, because if you could see it, nobody would go there. It's the kind of thing that gets seduced, coerced by, promises of vengeance, or the, satisfaction of lust, or the acquisition of power or status, or, wealth. And all those things are hollow without the reality of the movement towards your true life's purpose. And nobody knows that but you, right? And I don't buy into the postmodernist, nihilistic, atheistic view of culture that says life is meaningless and absurd, and, give in to your hedonistic, desires, because why not? I don't buy that. I've been through the kind of the hippie thought process. I've had my time with, entheogens and self-searching and navel gazing, and I came out the other side sober and wanting to embody the self-sacrificial Christian ethic, because I find that to be the only ethic that has produced wealth and abundance in society. There's a reason why the cultural zeitgeist that produced the common law system, where everybody is treated equally under the law, there's a reason that, is Judeo-Christian. There's a reason, Roman and Greek drama and philosophy informed the Renaissance, because these ideas are ones that exalt the human soul, that exalt the individual. and they tell us very deep truths about ourselves. And they're simple. You are connected to the eternal. You yourself, you as a person, have every right to be here. You have a right to think the thoughts that you think. And you should strive to be the best version of yourself that you can. And we're losing that in the West. We have become parasitized by a strain of post-Soviet communism that means to devolve the sanctity of the individual, the Western Judeo-Christian individual, into the Eastern comrade, the communal glorious revolutionary, the faceless, nameless agitant, the activist. It's only idiots that are ignorant of history that think that that's a good cultural movement. Because every time that that's been the case, from Pol Pot's Cambodia to Maoist China to Stalin and Leninist Russia and the Soviet Union, it was mass starvation, mass murder. And it's only through the ethic of self-sacrificial striving toward moral conduct, not in the interest of some regime or some party politic or some tyrant, but in the interest of moral conduct for moral conduct's sake, defined simply as work toward building a better tomorrow. And that can go wrong in a multitude of ways. It can go wrong when that vision is perverted by a lack of discretion between those that need compassion, like children, and the malevolent forces of evil people who have allowed themselves to stray from moral conduct and cry for the care of the compassionate left politic. And that's what's happening in the West. We have a Democratic Party who has made their zeitgeist compassion for illegal immigration and disdain for the working class of the United States. That, unsurprisingly, is an unpopular opinion to run a party on. Now, the populist strain of the Democratic Party, as embodied by Bernie Sanders, is a very popular platform. Bernie almost got the nomination for president twice from the Democratic Party, and they lampooned him twice. They screwed Bernie twice. People do want a champion for the working class on the Democratic side. It's just the Democratic Party seems to have been taken over by Wall Street and radicalized in terms of identity politics and this, again, kind of post-Soviet, communal socialism. And at the risk of offense, it's people that work hard and want, the opportunity to build success in this country call bullshit when the identity politics takes center stage in the political theater, because it's just nonsense. It doesn't get us anywhere. The United States has never been about ethnicity. It's always been about a philosophy and a Judeo-Christian ethic that allowed for free enterprise, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the radicals are putting that under siege because they don't play fair. They call you names. They won't engage in the ideas of the political discourse. Instead, they try to attack your character. It's always an ad hominem attack by leftists. And I think any reasonable person that feels left by the left is happy to have the discussions around immigration, fiscal and monetary policy that has caused inflation, kind of the capture of the economic engine of this country by the financialization of the big banks and Wall Street and the Fed, the destruction of the industrial working class in this country, the military industrial complex and the forever wars, the pharmaceutical capture of our healthcare industry. These are good debates to have that are never had in good faith, and I find that to be very frustrating. But I think what we're seeing, and it continues to be represented in bad faith by the corporate media, is young people, and there is a very intense sex divide politically in this country. The young women have been intensely radicalized to the left, if you look at polling numbers, but young men largely are right of center because they don't want to be patronized. They don't want to be told they're terrible people because of their sex, gender, sexual orientation, or race, color, or creed. They do want to work hard and are willing to fight and protect the interests of this country. And, frankly, the people that are going to protect you from enemies, foreign and domestic, are not the people that you want to demoralize, disenfranchise, disrespect, and continually drag through the mud, because frankly you do so at your own peril. This country is the most powerful fighting force in the world and has been for a long time, and now we find ourselves at parity or near parity with other superpowers like China and Russia. And it's time to recognize that we play the endless compassion game at risk of doing so suicide, with a suicidality that ends the West. And it seems the particularly hateful, vengeful, nihilistic, materialistic postmodernists think that this couldn't happen soon enough. And the young, however secular, inspired by the Judeo-Christian ethic of striving, self-sacrifice for the glory of something greater than themselves, aren't having it. We want to work hard. We want to tell the truth. We want to make something of ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you're seeing that spirit alive and well. And I want to be a voice of the fact that there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't come at anybody else's expense. If anything, more young men making themselves strong and capable and competent benefits all of society. It does not come at the cost of young women. It's exactly what young women want. More, dateable young men, more, capable young men. We have this sick narrative in the West that it's always a competition, that it's a zero-sum game, that men are the problem. And it's tiring. We can all build the pie. If I or somebody else takes a bigger slice, it doesn't have to come at your expense. And anyway, so I just see so much demoralization, specifically of young people that will and would fight for the country and sacrifice of themselves for the betterment of the status of the people of this country, and it's being done by particularly angry, vengeful, largely naive, ignorant, that is to say, illiterate of history, young people who are fed lies by, self-proclaimed socialists that are rich off the capitalist system. So it's just this weird upside down world. And I just think that as the world turns, the United States continues to be, and this is what a gentleman told me that, we were in Mexico recently, and he said this to me. He goes, the United States is still the capital of the world. And it continues to be the best place to invest because no other country allows international companies to operate with as much freedom as the United States does. So the United States still leads the world in terms of innovation, the opportunity to develop intellectual property, and it has a particular spirit here of can-do attitude. And again, this particularly unique view of the ethic of self-sacrificial morality toward the building of the kingdom of heaven, if you will. And it's like I get cringe because I've been raised in the West Coast postmodernist ethic that absolutely hates with a fiery passion any instance of religion. And the older I get, the more I see that the particularly anti-religious have gained nothing from their anti-religion. And it's like, obviously there are terrible injustices that the Catholic Church has committed, et cetera, et cetera. I am no fan of institutions that have committed heinous acts. What I am a fan of is a tradition of moral action. And you won't find a better one than Christianity. I challenge you to do so. I am all ears if you have found a philosophical tradition. You might cite Buddhism. That's great. Anything that allows you to get up early and work hard for you and yours is valuable. And we scoff at that, we denigrate that, we demoralize that kind of philosophical tradition at our own peril. If we think compassion is of a higher order good than self-sacrificial moral conduct, what you end up having is a beehive of a queen bee and all of her babies, because you can't have any kind of masculine accomplishments in a feminized society. We need to have a little bit of masculine in this country again. And we misconstrue masculinity with violence and aggression. And that's not what it is. It has the capacity for that, but you need the capacity for that if you're attacked by an enemy. It's just we have too many young people that have been radicalized by charlatans to think that there's no enemies. There are enemies. There are people that commit crime. And those people, oftentimes are worthy of compassion, but not every time. It's a hard argument to make to like a young, naive, idealistic person who's particularly radicalized by the left, because the only ethic that seems to be needed to usher in utopia is compassion. But, that's how Dahmer got all of his victims. Monsters prey on compassion. Men go fight monsters. You need men just like you need women. And we've been told in this society that we don't need men. And it's taking us down a dark road. And I just think that we're seeing a little bit of a counterpoint to that now. And I would like to be the voice of a particularly, I would hope, reasonable person who, although I might sound exasperated, and I am 100% open to dialogue and certainly don't think that I know it all. and am a particularly compassionate person myself. I have a very feminine disposition. I'm in healthcare. I'm very verbally, if not intelligent, fluent. I'm a people person. I'm much more interested in people than I am in things. So I get it. It's just that you're not a bad person if you're a young man. You're just not. You're a bad person if you choose to do evil acts and expect impunity. So I guess that's it. I just think that doing good ought to be encouraged, and good things are hard to do. And compassion, in the sense of the encouragement and the emboldening of evil acts, is a bad thing. You know, it's an interesting discussion because turn the other cheek is an ethic of Christianity. It's just that there are forces that would seek to destroy you, and you have to be weary of those forces if you are to protect yourself in the world. And, you know, exercising that muscle, if you will, is a good idea. And I just think that if we let that muscle atrophy in the way that it seems like we have been in the United States since the hippies kind of, you know, cultural revolution in the 60s, we are at peril of losing our place in the world. And, you know, we do not need another world war. So anyway, just some thoughts, random. I got my workout in, so I wanted to put some thoughts out there. I appreciate you guys for watching. This was a particularly long video. I guess my only point is, whoever you are, don't let yourself be demoralized. Don't let yourself be made to think that you're a bad person because of you know, your birth, your sex, race, creed, sexuality. You know, none of those things define your character. Your actions define your character. And you can choose those things, and that's up to you. And, you know, do it the hard way. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. You know, get right with God or with the universe or whatever higher power you find there to be. You know, and work hard and make some money and do something good in the world. And I think that all things considered, we're very lucky to be alive in this day and age, and hopefully good things will continue to happen. So thank you for watching. Love you guys.